All right, everybody, it's Steve with Real Progress in Action. You know, one of the hardest things about being an MMT activist is that you've studied what has made the progressive movement never be able to answer the questions of how you're going to pay for it. You've invested all your time learning where the resources are, learning about all the nuances of a modern money economy that we live in today. And you are an ally, 100% ally to the left and to the things that they're trying to do and to any number of policy prescriptions, from a Green New Deal to job guarantee to Medicare for all to student debt elimination, etc. They're all one thing. They're something that the federal government could provide each and every one of us. But because of the minuscule dreams that we think that we can act into reality, and because we keep thinking that we can tax our way to prosperity, that dream keeps shrinking and shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. And then when an MMTer comes into a progressive conversation, now mind you, that MMTer is 100% a progressive, fighting for the very things that they're fighting for. But they happen to have the answer for how you're going to pay for it. They know how you're going to pay for it. And that's met with crickets. It's met with skepticism. It's met with outright hostility from people within the movement. Hostility as you try to advance the very programs that Bernie Sanders himself tried to advance, as most of the left has tried to advance, as third parties have tried to advance. And it's met with crickets or outright hostility. Because see, MMTers, when we've done the research and we've talked to the experts and we took the time, we invested that gruesome time reading transcripts and listening to hour-long podcasts. We didn't go, oh, you don't expect me to listen to that, do you? No, why? Why is it that we don't ever say something like that? Because we're in a quest for truth. We're trying desperately to be able to answer at all times for candidates, you name it, the question of how you're going to pay for it. Now, sometimes people really find MMT to be quite intriguing. They want your insights as long as it bolsters what they think they want to do. They don't want the MMT discussion to inform what they do. Because if you bring MMT into that discussion, once you show the realm of possibility and the way things are supposed to work, the way they can work, and you say, but that's not a good way of doing it right there. This thing right here, that's not a good way of doing it. And here's why. I have literally met with responses like, you can't know that. How could you know that? You don't know anything. All of our ideas are good. Everyone's ideas are good. They're all good. Everything's good. For the last 50 years, progressives have not been able to answer questions on inflation. They've not been able to answer questions on where does money come from. They've not been able to answer the question of how in the world can we afford Medicare for all. They have not been able to answer any of the questions for how we would get rid of student debt. They know we want to get rid of student debt. They know we want to have Medicare for all. They know we want a Green New Deal. But they have no concept, zero, of how to pay for it. And guess what? How to pay for it directly impacts how you write the bill. Directly impacts it. There is No way around it. And so when people decide they're going to go out like a smurf in a meth lab seeking ephedrine, and they go from CVS to CVS to pharmacy trying to get ephedrine because they didn't like the answer here, which was no. So they keep hopping around, or they go doctor shopping to see who's going to send them oxycodone. That right there is why we keep failing, because they don't want to be informed. Why? Why would they not want to be informed? If you're going the wrong way and you can show that you're going the wrong way, and you say, you know what? I've spent all this time making a really bad decision, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press forward anyway. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it. Doesn't matter whether it's good, bad, indifferent. I'm going to do it because all ideas, they're equal. Doesn't matter if there's any veracity behind it. It all matters is where our hearts are. As long as there's love in our hearts, the math will work out. The math will work out. The funding mechanism will suddenly spring forth from the earth. This thing that has very specific ways it works. But as long as we have love in our hearts, because we're all united, that's not true, unfortunately. It's not true. You can want a Green New Deal all day long. But if you suddenly want to finance it by exporting green energy and you want to get into the market business, that's not funding green energy. Green energy is self-funding by our federal government. If you want to sell healthcare as a solution to all things, access to healthcare is a right, whatever. There are certain things that you must know about the operational realities of the federal government versus the state governments. Simple. I'm sorry. It's the way it is. When you don't understand what the national debt is, but you're terrified when you hear them say it's $29 trillion or whatever the heck the number is today. It's a really big number. It's really scary. Really scary. Terrifying even. When you have that and you don't know the answer and you're going to bull through anyway, that is a tremendous disservice to the movement, period, because everything is connected to everything. So if you try to say, well, of course we can finance Medicare for all at the state level, why in the world can't we finance a Green New Deal at the state level? Why not a federal job guarantee at the state level? Oh, wait, no, that federal word. I wonder if in the pursuit of truth, people are actually going for truth. Because see, there's the immediate knee-jerk feeling right here, right now, doesn't go 5 seconds out. And then there's the 1 year look, and then there's the 3 year look. If all you're doing is pressing your face up against the mirror so closely that you can't see anything else but the pores in your nose pressed against the glass, you've missed the point. You've missed the plot altogether. Medicare for all, ending student debt, making housing a right, building sustainable communities that can survive and last and help us thrive in a degrowth environment as we try to fend off the worst of climate disaster coming our way. All of these things require an understanding of how finance works, how our economic system works, how bills get funded. And going out there shopping for an economist that says what you want to hear ain't the right way to get it done. It's not. When you find you're going in a wrong direction, you must course correct. You must. Or you're setting up the dominoes to knock over other initiatives as we go forward. I don't care if you like that answer or not. I mean, I do. I want you to want the truth. I want you to want the truth. But I'm tired, exhausted, beyond words, trying to make people realize that MMT activists are not adjacent to the movement. They're not different from the movement. They're not extras. They're not someone that maybe you should listen to when it's convenient. MMT activists, it's like when you're an IT consultant and you're working with your IT staff and your networking engineers, all they want to do is buy switches and routers. But then your security team says, well, wait a minute. We need to institute some firewalls. We need to put some different, access lists together. We need to impose some different software packages to prevent identity theft or phishing or whatever. And you're like, well, daggone it, those firewalls impact my great design of the thing I wanted to do. And the security guy's like, well, what do you want me to tell you? If I don't patch these holes up, you're going to get ripped off. They're going to come in, they're going to dox your workers, they're going to get all sorts of corporate secrets, whatever. So ignore your security engineer at your own peril. Well, MMTers, MMT activists are like your security engineer. We're here to show you how to do these things and how to fund them. And when you hit a wrong way, we're here to say, hey, course correct. Here's this thing. Does that happen? No. In fact, groups go out there looking for an economist. And it doesn't matter whether that economist is a neoliberal hack. Doesn't matter. As long as they say what they want them to say in that moment, they are Jesus Christ in a half shell. And that, my friends, is a freaking major losing proposition. Major losing proposition. A federal job guarantee, so we're all on the same page, has to be funded at the federal level. Why? Because a federal job guarantee isn't just about jobs. It's an automatic stabilizer for the economy. When the jobs go away, the federal government infuses money into the economy through the job guarantee, rises and falls, rises and falls. It's a counter-cyclical, meaning the opposite of the business cycle. It's counter-cyclical, and when the business cycle goes down, the job guarantee goes up. It can't be done at the state level. Why not? Because the state can't net infuse new money into the economy. Only the federal government can do that. Only the federal government can create net financial assets without it being debt through a bank, a loan. So when MMTers are talking about this stuff, we can talk about it when we're not even talking about your stuff. We can just talk about it. And in general conversation over a cup of coffee or folks drinking a beer or whatever, maybe they'll agree. Maybe they'll agree. But when you start telling people the parameters and the guardrails and the points where their idea is going afoul, going stray, taking them off the right path, when you show this, there's no respect for the MMT community whatsoever. None. Zero. Zip. Zilch. Nada. And so why is that? Why is that? Why is it that you couldn't answer for 50 years how you're going to pay for it? Now you've got a school that has come in and done the hard work to show you how you can pay for it. And you're like, go away. Be gone. Skedaddle with the cattle prod. I'm out of here. No. Why? Why would that be? And why would somebody that's never invested themselves in learning this kind of stuff, why would they feel like everyone's on an equal footing on this conversation? Why, when you have PhD economists saying the same things, would you not feel a little off? Folks, MMT has come to save the day. MMT has come to destroy the deficit myth, has come to destroy the national debt myth, has come to destroy the ideas that fund states so states don't keep ripping their pension plans apart and destroying their freaking environment by allowing fracking to fund their services because of unfunded federal mandates. MMT is here to save the day, to show us how we can structure a sustainable economy that will allow us to thrive while we degrowth, while we attack real climate issues. And all that costs huge amounts of money. All of it does. And no, it does not come from taxes. Unless you got it wrong. Unless you literally got it wrong. Unless you chose the wrong path, period. It's not an opinion. You could feel like it's an opinion because you haven't taken the time to study it, but you can't. It's not an opinion. Now, there are a million ways to do various things. Each one of them comes with a whole set of risks that may or may not impact other people. Now, when you're doing a project, anywhere, you're doing a real project, you're a project manager, you're given an abstract or a scope statement or a charter to get started, move on this project. And you look down and it tells you certain things that have to be done. One of your jobs as a project manager is to do risk analysis. What are things that could happen? What is the possibility percentage of them happening? What would be the impact of those risks happening? And then what is your mitigation plan when those risks happen? That's basic project management. If you haven't had project management background, might I point you towards getting some education in the project management field? It's really helpful in everything we do as organizers, as alternative media, as people trying to do events and things like that. Having a background in project management is absolutely not replaceable. You must, it's important. It's super important. Scarce resources, small time frames, you need some project management. But the point is that you got risk management up front, but you also have something else too, and that is called dependency and stakeholder management. So when you do something on a project, you've got to look around and see what are the downstream impacts, what other groups might be impacted by these decisions, what other projects are going on that are not mine that might impact my decision to go this route, and what does it do to them if I do that? Do I have to change the route that I'm taking not to impact this other project? Risk assessment, risk analysis, planning, dependencies. MMT does all of that. It looks at all of that. So why, I ask you again, are our friends in the movement not taking us more seriously? Why do they act like we're an afterthought? Why does it, when we give what they see as bad news, which is just simply showing them the risks associated with a certain maneuver and the dependencies they're impacting, why is that met with weeping and gnashing of teeth and all kinds of cockblockery? Why? It's not naysaying to explain the lay of the land. It's not. And it's absolutely responsible and an ally's job to point that out. It's not intended to be a fight, but it is intended to say, hey, look, we've taken the time to do the hard work to learn how federal finance works, to learn how state finance works, and to learn how European Union works and all the other stuff, to learn how currency works in Russia and China and Japan and Australia and England. But yeah, sure, we're all even. All ideas are equal. There's no difference. It's not a matter of ego. It's not a matter of arrogance. It's not a matter of anything. It's a matter of when you've done the work and you've earned the knowledge and you are blocked from using it. It's like screaming into a pillow as you're being slit, being held down with a pillow over your face as they just knife you. That's what it's like when people stifle your voice when you're trying to explain what you know, because it's something that most people don't invest themselves in learning. So if somebody has not invested themselves in economics, why in the world would they feel like it's their role even to push back? Why? Why would they feel that way? Why, what would compel someone that hadn't invested a nickel of time in actually learning this stuff to act like they're ready to go? Like, bring it, man. Let's do this. UFC MMA style. Let's do it, man. Why? Why does it have to be a fight? At what point in time will MMT activists be treated as someone to be consulted and talked to in the process of planning some of these things? Why wouldn't academics be even given opportunities to weigh in there? Why would they go to neoliberals to get their, marching orders? Questions would need answers, demand answers, in fact. So I don't know what you all think, but I wanted to bring this out there because for me, at this point in time, I have found myself doing this for 13 years. I've got 123 Macro and Cheese podcasts that we've done, and I've done hundreds more interviews and on other people's channels. Like Bernie Sanders over 40 years, over the last 13, I've kind of kept the same message. Why? Because the message doesn't change. That's the thing about this. The rules of this type of game, they change by human beings. They're not God-breathed. So any of these fiscal rules and stuff like that can be challenged. What can't be challenged, though, are the basics of understanding a fiat system. It's always about the currency issuer, and it's always about the currency users and the interaction between the two. That doesn't change because you don't like the answer. I'm Steve Grumbine with Real Progress in Action, folks, and I hope the stuff that I brought up today resonates with you. I really do, because I'll be perfectly honest with you, seen far too many people who just think it's a bunch of crack pottery, and that's a shame because we are allies and we're useful. Please include us in the conversation before you've gone so far down a runway that you won't pull back, even if it means destruction. Have a good one, everybody.